Water Institute of South Africa brings together experts from a wide range of disciplines to present solutions for a sustainable water future in the region. And today we're privileged to have the CEO of WISA, Dr. Lester Goldman, to talk about the upcoming conference. Also with me are the founders of the South African Water Chamber. Don't go away, we will be right back. If you've just joined us, welcome to the Water Hour. I'm your host, Bridgetti Limbanda from Cape Town in South Africa, and our stream is made possible by BeLive Media, the South African Water Chamber, and StreamYard. It is an audience-centric show. We are monitoring the comments, so please feel free to join in the discussion. Today's special guest is Dr. Lester Goldman of WISA to talk about the upcoming conference. Also with me in the studio is Fred Platt will be joining us a little bit later, and possibly Dr. Anthony Turton, but Professor Hamanth Kasan is here, and also Benoit Leroy. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Brigitte. Good afternoon, gents, and good afternoon to the listeners.
Thank you.
Lester, thanks very much for joining us today, and we appreciate your time, and we know that you have to leave us before the hour is up. So we want to just jump off straight away. For anybody who's watching the show, because it's watched globally, can you first, I know that we want to know more about the upcoming conference, but if you could just give us a little bit of an overview of what WISA is and its function in South Africa.
Thanks, Brigitte. So WISA is obviously the shortened version of the Water Institute of Southern Africa, NPC, a non-profit company. It's primarily a membership body that's also recognized by the South African Qualifications Authority as a professional body. That being said, our main focus area is looking at skills development and capacity building within the water sector and allied sectors. We've got both individual membership and non-individual being patron and company membership. We have roughly 3,000 members countrywide, and scatterings of members globally as well. So that in essence is what we do. And I think as part of capacity building, we try and arrange events, and one such event is the WISA Biennial Conference. I'd like to think it's the premier water sector conference, certainly one of the largest, and essentially where we bring, the experts and stakeholders together. I think with the aim of having healthy debate and finding solutions to the very many challenges we face.
So shall we dive in and talk about the upcoming conference? And Anthony Turton, welcome to the show as well.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Prof.
So shall we kick off with the conference?
Thanks, Brigitte. So, the WISA 2022 conference is taking place between 28th and 30th September 2022 at the Sandton ICC. For those who may not be aware, the last WISA conference we had was in 2020, and unfortunately what was going to be a physical conference had to be very quickly rearranged into a virtual conference. So we're quite excited that we can get together physically again after a 4-year period. So the 2022 conference, as I said earlier, is taking place at the Sandton ICC, which is a world-class venue. We look quite forward to, to that. It is taking place from the 28th. And prior to that, we actually will be running some technical tours on the 27th of October. And for those WISA members and those in the sector who know, we try and run it from a Monday to a Wednesday normally. Unfortunately, because of COVID and booking schedules and so forth, this year round it will be running from a Wednesday through to a Friday. So Tuesday the 27th, we'll have some technical tours, and we'll also have some leisure tours on Saturday, 1st of October. The conference theme is navigating the course, and it follows on a sort of nautical theme that we used for 2020. And the reason the technical committee chose this is, reflecting on the journey since the last conference. We wanted to discuss where the sector should be and how we will get there. And this theme is supported by some sub-themes running throughout the program. I'll just very briefly, get into those sub-themes. So don't abandon ship, leaving no one behind, essentially is looking at reaching the goals of SDG 6 in providing water and sanitation services, listening to our various customer needs and those of vulnerable communities that are unserved. Rock the boat is looking at rethinking sanitation in a circular economy, the reuse, resource and energy recovery of grid solutions, for example, and reinventing the toilet. Running a tight ship looks at improving water use efficiency and demand management across all sectors of water users, even involving mining, agriculture, industry, and municipal. Batten down the hatches is really just a response to climate change. Learn the ropes as a sub-theme looks at harnessing the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. Matters ashore looks at addressing environmental water quality and sustainable groundwater issues. And lastly, stem the tide is management and regulatory issues focused. So there we'll be looking and discussing things like blue and green drop, professionalization of the sector, skill shortages, managing stakeholders effectively and developing capable institutions. Those are the 6 sub-themes. In essence, the program overview, as we can see, runs on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, with the technical tours on the Saturday. And in essence, we can see there the conference kicks off on the Wednesday with a plenary session, then moves into the parallel streams, and that will be essentially what happens on the day, on the Thursday, the second day, and the Friday as well. In terms of just some of the detail, Brigitte, if you can maybe move on. There have been just under 300 abstract and workshop submissions received. The peer review process, in fact, has been finalized now. And, again, these things change on a daily basis. So what we've got there as 10 parallel streams has actually been amended just as in yesterday to 11 parallel streams. You're looking at about 181 presentations over the 3 days, 29 workshops, and about 56 poster presentations. Delegate registration at this point in time, and this conference is actually, renowned for late attendance. But as of this week, we're looking at about 605 registrations currently. And we were planning around 1,000, so we're well on track to have 1,000 delegates. Normally, registration dramatically increases in the last 3 weeks of the conference. So I'd like to think we're well on track to achieve those numbers. And this despite the fact that, the restrictions that were there were only lifted really less than 2 months ago. From an exhibition perspective, there are 180 exhibition stands available. As of this morning, 55% has been taken up, and with a further 20% booking forms, but not contractual forms completed yet. So we're probably looking and hoping that at this point in time, we have about 75% of that sold. Sponsorships, as we can see, have been taken up already, and some are being finalized right now. But at this point in time, we've got Randwater as the anchor sponsor, Envirolu, Mgeni, CISA, MND, AECI are some of the other sponsors. We've also received confirmation that DWS is coming in as a co-sponsor. So, we're quite appreciative of the support from the sector. And we're looking forward to being able to discuss some of the challenges and so forth that we face. For those who want more information, the draft program as well, it's available on the website, wisa2022.co.za. And for any info, welcome to email events@wisa.org.za or myself, CEO@wisa.org.za. Thank you very much, Brigitte.
Thanks very much for that overview, Lester. Much appreciated. And so anyone who's got any more inquiries can go to the WISA website, and registrations are still open.
Correct.
So I think South Africa is just, or South Africans are just normally notorious for registering at the last minute for any event. It's just a South African thing.
Yeah, so unfortunately, and it creates quite a bit of anxiety for us, though. But I guess that's why we start getting grey early.
Yeah, absolutely. Benoit, any comments on the WISA conference? Anthony?
Yeah, I've got a comment unless Benoit wants to go before me. Yeah, look, I just want to say that WISA is a world-class organisation. It's highly recognised all over the world. It's the embodiment of South African water sector professionalism over the last couple of decades, and wherever you go, it's recognised. And in fact, I think probably all of us tonight on this show are probably fellows or something, or we're certainly all members, and we're probably all fellows as well of WISA. Yes. So I'm very proud to fly the WISA flag, and I'm very, very proud that WISA literally upholds South African excellence globally. So thank you very much, Lester, to you and to your professional body of people.
Thanks, Prof. And yes, you all at the very least are fellow members. I think Prof. Kasan is actually a senior fellow. So yes, and again, as you quite correctly said, it's the embodiment of professionalism. And it's really what we need to see more of in the broader sector. And I think that's part of the interesting discussions that will happen. I don't think some of the challenges we face are as a result of lack of professionals. It could be as a result of professionalism in the broader country. And these are the type of debates and discourse I think we need to have, frank debates and discourse. We'd like to see more non-members there. We'd like to see more of the water sector becoming members and understanding what professionalism is all about. So thank you for your role in that as well.
Yeah, just one more thing, if I can, Lester. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I recall, your Latin motto for your organisation actually tells us that without water there's nothing. Without water there's absolutely nothing. And the other thing that I recall about WISA is that it was originally started actually as a custodian for the technical knowledge for the water operators, the people that operated plant, if I'm not mistaken. That's actually how it started out. And today, with our crisis in the management of plant, either wastewater or potable water plant, of course, it all comes down to that custodial body of knowledge. And I'd say one more thing: the water sector is very well renowned in South Africa for having these pockets of excellence. And one of the reasons why we started the chamber is to try and bring these pockets of excellence together into one ecosystem of value chain providers. WISA is already pretty much responsible for that vertical of technical competence, and the Water Research Commission does all of the research and scientific side, and the chamber hopefully wants to reach out to both of those and ultimately bring in the ecosystem that also includes your service providers that are on the professional side, your consulting engineers, the designers, etc., etc. Then ultimately we've got an overall body of water sector professionals.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think, if the various stakeholders, got around the table and collaborated more, I think, a large percentage of the challenges we have would be mitigated. And that involves, the broader public as well. So I certainly support that as well.
Benoit, would you like to expand on the role of the South African Chamber, and then if we can go over to Hamanth, because you've definitely played a big role in WISA as well, and welcome to Fred Platt.
Thanks, Brigitte.
You're welcome, Brit. Yeah. Thanks, Brigitte, and really good to have Lester here. And we've, Lester reached out in our very early days and asked us to present our wares as the chamber. I think it was in 2018 and also in 2020, and it was really good. It was the early days, as did the Water Research Commission, believe it or not, and I think their conference was either year before or afterwards, and so we are collaborating, but I think the chamber brings a dimension of let's say the hardcore business side of things, which is how do we blend in government with the NGOs, with research, and with the institute and the technical competencies within that. And I think it's really good. We're all talking similar languages, and I saw Lester the other day. We involved his Gauteng branch called us in to discuss digitization, data, fifth industrial revolution. And I see the theme is in the conference there, which is really good. It's good to hear DWS is going to be there, because government has been refraining in participating in a whole lot of things due to budgetary reasons. But it's good that DWS is out there, and out of the summit in March was big data. What do we do with the data? And I like it that you touched on the blue and green drop report at the bottom there. We're going to have an independent water regulator by the year end, hopefully. So there's a lot of things happening, and the only way we can keep all these balls in the air is by collaborating as we do. And despite the apparent differences we may have out there between the various sectors, they are apparent. We all want water security, and we've got different roles to play. And so I think it's really great, and I just hope and I think it looks like the WISA conference will be the normal highlight. And I know that Hamanth will be going to the IWA, which is I think 10 days before that. Okay, so it's quite a demanding month on the pocket, I think, for those who need to dig deep. And I think finances are pretty tight, but let's hope companies are able to support and the likes. And up to you, Hamanth, dear fellow.
Over to you, Hamanth.
Senior fellow.
Senior fellow, sorry. Yeah. Hamanth, you're on mute.
Hamanth, we're unable to hear you.
I think his bandwidth is also...
Okay, there we go. Thank you, Brigitte. Yeah,
there we
really
go.
Excited to have Lester here. Now that you can hear me, I'm excited to be here, Lester, with you. The conference is, I think, an exciting prospect. I've had the benefit of being on the technical committee, so I have insight in terms of what the program is all about, and we can be rest assured to the viewers and the audience that we're really looking at some powerful keynote speakers. I mean, that's one of the functions I was given in the technical committee, and I'm in the process of finalizing with the committee who these esteemed speakers would be that would be speaking on topics. I can let you in on some of the topics we're looking at. They're in line with all the themes that Lester demonstrated there. Climate change will be high on the agenda. The Department of Water and Sanitation, will hopefully present what their plan is for how they intend to transform the water and sanitation sector in this country, so that all the professionals can get a deep understanding of what we're trying to do through the department on a national basis. this whole notion of the public-private partnerships of water, which is receiving serious attention now, especially in the case of ESCOM, and the dialogue that is flowing around how we can work together to enhance water service delivery. Well, lo and behold, we're looking at a really outstanding speaker from somewhere else in the world where they've really done this. They've actually implemented a great public-private partnership, and we'd like to have such speakers to come and show us how they did it, how they went about doing it, what value that added to communities, how do they measure their performance. So yeah, the non-sewage sanitation side, alternative modes there, it's an exciting period. And so I can only say we wish you all the luck, and the Water Chamber stands with you. I'd like to believe that from the Chamber, we're entirely here to support you, because at the end of the day, folks, whether you're WISA, whether we're the Water Chamber, whether we're the Water Research Commission, whether we're the department or the ministry or a municipality or a consultant or a water business, we all want the same thing. We want water security, we want good sanitation, and so we should really work together in terms of making this difference. And, as I heard the other day from Imtiaz Suleiman from Gift of the Givers, he said South Africa belongs to the people. South Africa doesn't belong to the government or any other fraternity. It belongs to the people, and we are the water sector professionals. So we ought to be the ones making a difference. So I'm delighted, Lester, that it's time that we've just come through COVID, hopefully. It will be a great undertaking to have a face-to-face meeting. We haven't had that opportunity for over 2.5 years. And I just know that all of our colleagues and friends are really going to be excited to be together in Sandton and be having some great conversations, great dinners, great cocktails. And hopefully we persuade each other to do the right thing and to turn the issues around in this country. So really excited to have you here and to work together with all of the stakeholders in moving the agenda forward. Thank you, Brigitte.
Lester, what's the uptake been from the business community? Is the conference essentially for water professionals? But the business community needs to be an important part of that conversation too. Has there been a good uptake from the business community in general?
Yes, so I mean, so again, our membership is structured to include, business and so forth, and you'll see some of them have already taken up sponsorships, but there's always a lot more that can be taken up, and with 7 weeks to go, I would encourage them to take up more. But certainly, we are trying to focus this conference not only on the water professionals on the water sector, but the allied sectors as well. So ideally, we'd like to see, a large grouping from the agricultural sector, from the mining sector, from even the general public. We'd like to see them, them coming in and participating. And what's different about this conference is that the exhibition side of the conference will actually be open to the public. Obviously, we do ask exhibitors and so forth that as they come through and invite the general public, their clients and so forth, there will be a bit of a registration required. But we'd like to see the public coming through and looking at the exhibition area. And like Prof. Hamanth said, this sector belongs to all of us. And all of us should play a role in making it better and mitigating some of the challenges. And really, that's what we'd like to see more of. More businesses coming and understanding what the water sector is about and what challenges we face and how we work together to fix them. So certainly, yes, any business, a person that is out there that is even remotely interested in water, even in a personal capacity, more than welcome to attend. If you don't want to pay and attend the academic or conference side of things, just please come and visit our exhibition area. Come and see what all the exhibitors are about. And, as our latest slogan says, develop a passion for water, because that's what we all should have. Thanks.
Well, really, I mean, the water sector, there's not a single person in South Africa or anywhere in the world that's not affected by the water sector. We can't live without water. So it's heartwarming to know that it's open to the public as well, and really anyone would. Fred, may I ask you for a comment on the business sector and why they should, if they have not yet registered to attend, why it's important for them to become a part of the conversation.
Thanks, Brigitte. And I think it's such an exciting discussion and opportunity that we're looking at here. But the reality of the matter is that, firstly, water is central to every business, and no business activity can happen without water. But secondly, we as a private water sector need to get together, and that's really why the chamber has got together in the first place, is to provide leadership, to take hands with government, take hands with the professionals, take hands with the funders, and collectively, drive it through. So I think for many years, the private business or water sector has sat on the sideline, complained about the fact that things aren't happening, aren't being unlocked, etc. But we haven't seen the leadership that is required in order to engage with all the stakeholders. And I think, Lester was talking about such an important component, and that is the delivery of water at the end of the day is a function of getting all of the stakeholders together and holding hands. You cannot do it in isolation. It's not the responsibility of government or of the professionals or of the funders or the private investors. It's a function of the collective. And that's why we at the Water Chamber identify that stakeholder management and financial engineering is as important as the hard technical engineering in the provision of water. So I would urge the business sector, if you haven't got involved yet, get involved, get to the conference and engage with the partners so that we collectively can, civic society, business, we've got such an important role to play. And as Imtiaz Sullivan says, it's for the people. And at the end of the day, so we really look forward to it, and we also look forward to the private sector joining the Water Chamber to have your representation and the engagement at a formal level.
Thanks, Fred. Lester, I'm looking at the time, and I know that you need to leave for your next meeting. So could I ask you maybe to just, any final word that you have to the audience?
Yes, no, I just want to thank again, all the colleagues on this session today for the opportunity. There's one particularly interesting presentation that will be done by our colleague from the DBSA, which looks at, this public-private partnership and so forth. And it is a very important discussion. I think it's a discussion that especially the SA Water Chamber wants to have and has been having. And it's vitally important that we bring those public-private partnerships together. It's what the country needs. We recognize that there's not enough funding available to do what needs to be done within the water sector. And so it's vital that the private sector becomes involved. And I do want to encourage the Chamber to do all they can in that regard. Again, general public, please do come to the conference. Please do come and participate. It's not about what we around the table are discussing and doing. It's about what we collectively can do and be the change that we want to see. So thank you once again to all of you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Lester. We really appreciate your time and just sharing a bit about WISA and your upcoming conference. And we hope that everyone who's watching will reach out. And so you're saying that the general public don't have to register in advance. They can arrive and register on arrival.
They can arrive, register, and that will allow them access to the exhibition area only. Anyone who wants access to the formal or academic or technical side of the conference would have to register via the website, and the fees and all the details are there. Just a reminder again, it's www.wisa2022.co.za.
And is there a cutoff date, Lester?
Yeah. We hope that anyone who's interested in registering would register at least 48 hours before. But no, you can rock up, on any day of the conference. We'll have a card machine there, and so so definitely no, there's no cutoff. But yeah, we'd appreciate a little bit of advance notice so we can get all the registrations ready for you. But absolutely, anyone can walk in and register on any day.
Awesome. Thanks very much. Gentlemen, any final question for Leslie before he leaves?
I would just like to congratulate Lester on his leadership of the organization and wish WISA strength as they take it to the very next level in the post-COVID environment. You can be sure of our support from the Chamber.
Thanks, Prof. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Lester. Thank you so much for your time and wishing you all the best with the upcoming WISA conference.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Goodbye.
Cheers, Lester.
Well, that was good to hear firsthand from WISA. It's nice to talk about the conference, but it was even nicer having him on board, and good to see that there's so much support or between WISA and the South African Water Chamber. And I think it was great that you explained the difference, why the South African Chamber can literally become the glue between all these disparate sectors or people who are working in the water sector. So for anyone who's just joined us now and who missed the beginning of the show, normally we start off with explaining a little bit about what the South African Water Chamber is, because we know that viewers come and go. So can I ask you, Fred, if you can just briefly give people an overview of the South African Water Chamber for anyone who doesn't know?
Thank you, Brigitte. Yeah, the South African Water Chamber was formed in an attempt to bring together the stakeholders from the private sector and to have a single interface that can interface with government and commit the private sector to discussions and engagements with government with regards to addressing as a country.
I think we've left.
So, am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the South African Water Chamber was formed basically to address three major issues that we've identified as the private sector. The first one was to get some policy certainty. The second one is to look at the regulatory environment. And the third one is to engage around the contracting framework between the private and the public sector. So it's really a organization that has as its core function the integration of the private sector, bringing them together and engaging with government positively in delivering on the R1 trillion worth of infrastructure spend that is required within the water sector. And we would urge all private sector interests, whether it be in the technology side, the EPC side, financing, whatever it may be, to get involved with the water sector through the South African Water Chamber so that we can really drive the agenda forward.
Benoit, are you? I assume that you're attending the conference as well. Can you give us some insight as to what the conversation will be about at the upcoming conference?
Yeah, I've been asked to assist on the big data side, so the fifth industrial revolution side, and there's a string of workshops that still need to be finalized. But there will be a pre-conference afternoon with Gauteng metros to follow on what the WISA Gauteng group have been doing, and it's to try and introduce the theme of, we mustn't be stuck in the third. We sort of missed the fourth. We're in the fifth industrial revolution, and we need to, and using that word, the glue between human and machine, we need to get that interface going in South Africa. In the world, there's huge traction. The last numbers were 11% 2 weeks ago. Now it's 15% annual growth at the moment in the sector, in the water sector. So, and it's not the IoT, it's digitizing, the water value chain. So it's really growing leaps and bounds. And I think it's to do with the pandemic to a certain extent that forced us to work through the digital twin and the likes. And South Africa has, I saw plans by some of the utilities about just before COVID, and they were talking a 10 to 15-year program. And the rest of the world is doing it in 6 to 9 months to get the first building blocks in place and the likes. So there's a lot of fear, and it comes through in the Green Cape report, the market information report of 2022, that one of the, well, actually the biggest single constraint in digitizing our water sector here was resistance from people. And you know, it's so we need to overcome that divide, and WISA is a very important part of doing that. You see, it's one of the 6 themes. And DWS have exactly the same mission, and there's huge interest in how do we actually do this. And unfortunately, you have to put humans to get this transition. Okay, we always talk about the just transition in energy. This is a just transition in water security, and that transition cannot happen without embracing digitization of the entire water value chain. You know, it's trying to use a landline, right, with a party line, okay, trying to do business on the internet. Just doesn't work. And, you know, we said we're not going on the internet. You know, I was in the corporate world. My quarterly bonus didn't happen. I had a laptop. The laptop was delivered to my house and with an email address. And I said, what do I do? They said, you learn. That's where it went, you know. And so we have to be forced a little bit sometimes and coerced. There's a bit of resistance, and I think it's good that the theme is there, and you know, that WISA's embrace that. They've got a specific group, and I must say, I mean, you know, I'm in my 60s, and these guys are in their late 20s to mid 30s, mostly, and they really have no resistance to change. But it's how do we actually do this, and this is where, you know, the bullies and the youngsters get together, and we actually understand each other, and we know what needs doing. But we've got this chasm of the unknown, and I think it's the conference will go a long way to helping to bridge that. And remembering, I think I mentioned it last week, the IWA, I think it's in November, having their first water digitization conference, and I don't know if I'm right there, Hamanth. I think it's in Europe. And I think it's in November. So, you know, the theme is new. It's been building up for a while, but the theme is new. But in South Africa, with our issue that we have in water, which is far worse than Eskom. I don't want to scare people, but I'm actually being restrained here. It's far worse than Eskom. You know, R1 trillion is double Eskom's debt. It's 2.5 times Eskom's debt, just as a measure. But you can live without energy. You cannot live without water. Is the only way of quickly embracing what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, how to prioritize it, leverage the current assets and all the likes, is by digitizing. And it's a very big word. There's a lot of things to do. So I think this conference will be a good thing. The main media will be there and the likes, so we'll see a lot of it being propagated. And it's good to see government is there, because what will happen is, you know, it's not just the private sectors who do this, it's government who has to do it, we have to do it, the NPCs have to do it. And there's a dearth of service providers globally. And what we're actually seeing is, you know, it's like soon we'll see we'll go and vote digitally. And, you know, when you vote digitally, you can never accuse the electoral body of manipulation. You cannot manipulate a digital election. It's the same thing with water and the transactions in water, the water quality, blue and green drops we're talking about. It cannot be manipulated. It is immutable, it is transparent, and therefore trustworthy. And I think that will go a long way to helping everybody get together and get this water sector sorted out. I can carry on for another 2 hours, but I'll stop there.
So why is there a resistance to digitize water? Is it because people are afraid of technology? Is it because it will show up their ineptitude? I don't think it's because we have a lack of the technology or technical skills.
I can answer that.
Sure.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
please.
Benoit, is Benoit still on? I'll answer after Benoit.
I just wanted to say it's the human factor, it's resistance to change, and it's also, there's been a few attempts in South Africa that were badly attempted, but they were isolated, and those gave us, and they were in the Western Cape, some of them, they gave us a bit of a sour taste, and in national government, but it was at very, very early stages. So there was a little bit of resistance from that perspective, but I think we can overcome that quite easily.
Yeah, but Brigitte, the experience of my company in that space has been slightly different. We've been working only in the commercial sector, no government partners at all. And we're finding in the commercial sector that there are two inhibiting factors. The first inhibiting factor is if your senior executive has made a decision that they are fearful of migrating onto the cloud, then that permeates throughout the organization. In reality, the cloud is very secure. That's not where insecurity lies. Insecurity lies in the perception that it's insecure. So that's the first stumbling block. And then the second stumbling block, once you're on site, is the local IT manager, because the local IT manager is the custodian of existing systems. They got an enormous amount of power because they're the only ones that understand those systems. They don't want any outsider coming in and fiddling with new data sources and databases, etc. And they actually they undermine you. They sabotage you from within. So we've realized this, and we've now gone in with our strategies right from the beginning. At the contracting point, we deal with both of those matters, or else we simply don't go onto site. But we're finding that the benefits of this are enormous. Just in one very complex industrial process we've been involved in, we've managed to get a 10% increase in productivity of that mill just by digitizing the process. 10% increase of a multi-million dollar production process, all of which basically translates directly to bottom line profits. So there's no question of doubt that this is the way of the future. And these impediments, now that we know about them, we can overcome them with greater skill.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Anthony. I think a lot of people are not aware of to the extent to which IT departments hold business and organizations to ransom. They kind of wield the sword. And, if something feels uncomfortable to them, they'll simply say it can't be done, or that it's detrimental to the organization, which isn't necessarily always true at all. But the business managers may not know enough to be able to deal with that. So I hear what you're saying. So should we, and I think, Benoit, you mentioned the point that change needs to come from the top down. The leadership needs to take the role and manage the process. Just hoping that it'll happen by accident isn't going to work. So where do you see this leadership should come from?
You're asking Hamanth?
I think maybe I'm going to Hamanth, I'm going to ask you that question. Where do you think the leadership should come from?
So you put me on the spot here. That's fine. No, look, it's undoubted that the leadership has got to come from the top. If you don't have what, in colloquial terms is called a sponsor of that type of a project, which is going to have a change dimension to it, if your leader has not bought into it, if your leader does not understand the implications of this big move in the shift of technology one, and does not even motivate others to show how it can add value to the business. Importantly, the leader also, in my experience, has to use this technology. This is very, very important, because if I'm the CEO of a water utility or a municipality or a water service provider of any sort or a company, if I am using it, this way I can ensure that others use it. This way I can ensure that I keep my finger on the pulse on exactly what is happening from an operational front on a real-time basis. This way I can prompt the operational personnel and other personnel to say, hey, this is what I'm seeing on my screen. Are you aware of this? How is this impacting us? And this is the way you inculcate change. There's also a tendency, I might say, for some organizations to embrace the change, so to say, to put in the systems, but then these systems are not widely used, and that really becomes a travesty, because you spend the money, you have all these metrics, you have all these alarm bells, and you can look at anything you want at any time you want, but few people seem to look at it, and even if they look at it, most importantly, you got to take some action based on what you're seeing. And that action translates into exactly what Tony was talking about when he talked about the productivity enhancement. Without the action, you don't get the enhancement. Because, you know, again, in colloquial terms, you know, you can measure some things till the cows come home. But if you don't do anything about the measurement that you're seeing and don't take any action, you don't derive any result. So that action step is very important for you to derive the bottom line benefit. So the short answer is, yes, leadership is going to be directly involved. They're going to have it on their phones. They're going to be using it. They're going to chase up with their subordinates to say, hey, what's happening? I'm seeing this. Are you seeing this? And that then inculcates the change in behavior for people to step up to and embrace such technologies. Thank you.
Well, hopefully the WISA conference will start that conversation. What I have noticed, though, is that since COVID, people are a lot more open to technology than they were prior to COVID, because it forced us in that direction. So maybe this was just the push that we need to get us over the edge and see change. Anthony?
Yeah, can I just say one more thing? Then I've had to ask if I can please be excused, because I'm actually supervising a drilling operation at the moment. So I've got to go back. I hear the drill rig in the background, and I've got to go and do something. Look, I think this whole debate comes down to a very, very important message that we have to bring about the fifth industrial revolution. And this message is embodied, in my opinion, in the whole debate around cybernetics. Cybernetics, it's a fancy sounding word, but it comes down to a conversation about man, data, and machine. And the average Joe Bloggs tends to think that the machine is going to make man lose the job because of data. And it's not like that at all. It's not about man versus machine. It's about man and machine together making a difference. So that's what it's all about. So that cybernetics thing. And I've now got an incoming call. I'm sorry, I have to go now. If I can be excused now, please.
Thanks very much.
I'm sure Tony meant also women, just to be inclusive. So it's men and women and machines.
Thanks for clarifying that. But I think I think because of COVID, we've reached a point of no return. We can only move forward, and from a technology perspective, I think it's been good. I think we've seen a lot of innovation come out of the pandemic, and change within the water sector has to happen. I think, Benoit, you spoke about it before. We need to get to the point where people can see how much water they're using on their phones, and be able to manage that water effectively, because knowledge is power. I think a big part of the problem is that we can't see the data, and maybe the custodians of the data are just holding on to it for whatever reason. As far as DWS is concerned, do you see that change happening, or is this something that the business sector will have to force on DWS?
At the Water Summit, DWS put on the table data and moving from third to fifth and the likes. So I think there's no issue with DWS, and DWS has actually gone a long way to digitizing their water resources, for example, on the catchment management side of things. And so, if you log into DWS's website, you see there's various platforms that look at resources and all the likes, and not all of it is properly functional, etc. But the thinking is there. So I don't think the issue is really there. I think for me, the overarching issue in the world is that water doesn't have sufficient value. That's why people have their airtime on their phone, but don't have a toilet or tap, And I still want that Bluetooth-enabled tap, by the way. And it does exist. So I think it's the value of water. And we've taken, when there was 1 billion of us, there was enough water around with basic technology. Now that we are 8 or 9 billion people, it's still the same amount of water, and now it's becoming a little bit of a tussle. Yes, we've got technology to access the sea and the likes, but if you look outside of that, what's happening is water can't be taken for granted. It has a value, and it's how do we attach value to it? Because some governments get elected on cheap water or free water and the likes, and in the EU there's only one country with free water, and it's Ireland, but everybody pays taxes. And in actual fact, they've made it very clear: if you went away from free water, they will vote the government out. Yeah, that's the issue there. But they've got plenty of water and they've got a small population. So water's not really the issue. But for us, it's a big issue, and it's heavily undervalued. With 59% of households not paying for the water. And to me, the discussion isn't about affordability. If you can afford a phone, a DSTV, a dish, etc., you can afford to pay something towards water. You don't necessarily have to pay what everybody else is paying. We should have different rates and the like. And I think this is where technology is coming in, because it's able to put value to the commodity. And once you put value to the commodity, and you can ask agriculture this, is, parts of our agriculture, the biggest input cost in water is actually pumping it. It's the energy cost. And the Eskom disaster could cripple our food security. So, and the agriculture sector is a very quick adopter in South Africa of new tech. They are highly digitized and the like. They have to be, because they've got 4 business plans a year in general. They have to be really adaptable, and they can't control weather, rainfall, and demand. So the digital side is really, for me, it's a toolbox that will help us to not only improve our systems, our deliveries, our efficiencies and the likes, but put value to the commodity, so that this commodity can be exchanged and used in a responsible and demonstrable manner, and I don't think we're too far from that. I don't think there's anybody who's really against it. It's the nuts and bolts that have to be worked out.
Is it possible that we still need more of an educational drive around water and water use? I think people may have this misconception that water simply comes out of the tap, or water falls from the sky, so it should free. But they don't understand the processes that it takes, or the cost that it requires to pipe water to each home and make it available. People just, for some reason, are more prepared to pay for electricity than they're prepared to pay for water. So maybe just, we need a bit more education around that. I think we're almost reaching the top of the hour. So maybe we can just have a round of closing comments.
Great.
Yeah, thanks, Brigitte. So, I'm just coming back to 2 things that were mentioned now. One is Benoit speaking about the value of water, and the other one was you referring to the use of technology because of the pandemic. And I think both of those are critical components in understanding what effectively will drive change within the water sector. I think what we're not focusing on often is the understanding of the stakeholder management and the social engineering that needs to go around to effect change. But if you look at the pandemic, for instance, people did not see the value in technology until they could no longer communicate, and until they got to a situation where they realized they couldn't have a meeting face to face, and then all of a sudden the value of the technology that we're on at the moment, or the value of those digital meetings, became so evident that people all of a sudden adopted it as if there was this incredible revelation. The reality was it was driven by need. The second thing is Benoit talks about value, and there's an old proverb that says, you don't understand the value of water until you've carried it, or until you don't have it. And I think both of those understandings are critical to where we are as a country, because we are in that point where water is no longer a given. It's no longer it will be there and we guaranteed to have it, etc., etc. And therefore we need to start understanding that unless we adopt certain changes in behavior, whether that be on the demand side, whether that be on the supply side, or whether that be in terms of the understanding of the data and the management of information around it, that we will run a major risk. And that'll have two drivers, one of which we will start understanding the value of water. And those of us who have had water switched off, even for a day or a half a day, will understand. And rurally, ironically, the people understand the value of water incredibly well, because many of the young women have to walk for miles to carry 25 liters of water back. And so that understanding of water will come through in the crises, unfortunately, and as they unfolding. So as we see Nelson Mandela Bay, or as we see the city of Cape Town with Day Zero, and so many cities around and towns around our country, that value is becoming evident. And then, of course, we need to understand that, we've had decades and decades of underspending in terms of infrastructure. We understand the failing infrastructure that we have, and we also understand the lack of capacity. And that can only be leapfrogged through the introduction of technology, digitization, using the latest 5RR technology in order to achieve it. So for me, I think we're at that point where the interface between the need, the crisis, the leadership, all of those things will come together and drive us into a new thinking, a new paradigm, and a new understanding of the value of water on the one hand, but secondly, how do we get to understand that value, and how do we manage that process? And that clearly is driven through digitization, through the understanding of data and the management of data. And that's where Tony said, it's not about the machine or the man, it's about man and machine together.
Absolutely, absolutely. So a lot of people prior to the pandemic, I think, were scared of technology for that reason, but it's becoming more and more apparent that the two together are stronger and better. And I still laugh when I think of how people were averse to technology until the pandemic happened, and suddenly everyone was quite happy with it because they realized there was no other alternative. And so maybe we're reaching that point now where there is no other alternative but for us to look at digitizing water. Hamanth, a final comment from you, and then we'll get the last comment from you, Benoit.
I want to echo what Fred has indicated. The simple difference in the future I see is, if we keep doing the same things that we've done in the past in water supply and sanitation, we will be classified as being crazy, because we will not receive a new outcome. Okay, firstly. Secondly, we will find that those water service providers in those countries that embrace the technologies, that execute them properly, and that look at technology as a business enabler, that they will really drive efficiencies, and they will change human behavior towards water and sanitation. And therefore, we should not be afraid of technology. We should look at it as an enabler to help us to achieve what we want, not something that's big and dangerous and ugly. And as you rightly said, COVID has demonstrated this. I mean, we would not have made that technology leap had it not been for COVID. So human nature is such that until you don't run out of water, you won't change your behavior. But we don't want that to happen on a recurrent basis. I think we can be a little bit more proactive, embrace the right technologies, and make the difference to all people in this country. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Hamanth. And Benoit, may we have a final comment from you?
Sure. Speak about crisis. So, the old saying, never let a good crisis go to waste, although those are oxymorons, good and crisis. But there's a lot of good things that come out of it. And just lastly, every industrial revolution has generated more jobs than what the world could supply. So and the jobs, if you go right back to the first industrial revolution, in actual fact, more dignified jobs. So yes, education does come into it. That's a given. But in the end, is digitization of water will give opportunities for new jobs, more highly skilled jobs, but we still need operators. But also it will give the whole supply chain that depends on water also new jobs. and the likes, and we don't know what else is going to come out of that. So there's no fear of losing your job or anything like this. It's going to create new jobs, and we have to learn continuously. It's a lifelong thing. So I'm very optimistic about it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I want to say thank you to our audience who's joined us today. Much appreciated. And just another final thanks to Dr. Lester, who joined us today from WISA and shared a bit about the conference. Was great to have him join us as well. So thanks, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Water Hour.